most was being chairman of the Budgerigar Society. Because at that point in time we've got quite a lot of goings on. Various people doing naughty things and having different sort of opinions and so forth, and it needed a lot of sorting out. And so I took it on and I changed it entirely. How it had been run over that period of 3 years. I introduced a totally different way of running the meetings and so forth. And I thoroughly enjoyed doing that. And I would have carried on doing it. I probably could have even been doing it until today if I'd have wanted to. But it is quite onerous. But something else came along which gave me an even bigger challenge. And that was organising the World Budgerigar Organisation. And that took off in 1994. And that really was a thrill to do that, to have a room full of international delegates all trying to organise a society or an organisation. And we had people from Germany, from America, well, basically from all over the world. But we started, I think, with about 18 different countries involved, some with 2 or 3 societies running within their country. There's a BS ran the UK. In America, there were a couple of societies. In Germany, at that point in time, there were 3 societies. There were even 3 in Denmark, I think, at that point in time. What happened is that they gradually came closer together. And whilst there are still 2 societies in some countries, they actually started to amalgamate and make themselves stronger, which I thought was good. And the very fact that everybody seemed to get on well, and we very soon set standards on all manner of things, which in the past had been independent standards throughout the world. Different people had different ideas. But we managed to agree what was basically world standards, the showcases for standard excellence and all this sort of thing. And that really was quite enjoyable, especially as they didn't all speak English. That was where the great fun came. We had a German, English-German interpreter, and there were several other people who could speak several languages within the room. For instance, Joe Sabella, who was an American, could speak Italian, as the word Sabella would probably indicate. And so Joe was able to speak to the Italians, and this dialogue, you'd start off the meeting and the agreed language was English, so it all be conducted in English, but then after a few moments you then break the meeting and stop, whilst people gabble away in their own languages and so forth, and then you bring it all back to order and start again. But it really was. So it was a very satisfying period of my life as far as budgerigars is concerned. Far more so than trying to read a good budget, because I've never done that in my life. So, not one day, I think. So from that point of view, Bob, yeah, just carrying on the history. And it is a bit big-headed, but it is minuted. Within the BS minutes, that the best chairman the Budgerigar Society ever had was Roger Carr, and that was said by Harry Brown. So I'll take that as and that is actually minuted, and that it put me over Watno was supposed to be the doyen of everything that ever happened. I'm not saying I was a better bird than Watno, but as chairman, he rated me higher than Watno, so I took that as being a real feather in the old cap. Anyway, today I didn't know what I was going to do today. Well, I did, because you can come and talk about budgets, but most of you have heard me before. And I thought I'd go back to the old one that I used to do about 25, 30 years ago, with a judging class, and how I see birds and how I like to judge them. Now, listen to what I'm going to say here, and then totally ignore it and go and judge those yourselves. But basically, being a BS judge, we all see them differently. We're all entitled to our opinions. We do have our book, our manual, which actually gives us an indication of what we should be looking for. We'll find it. probably an out-of-date one. But the official rules and membership list and the colour standards on the floor, it's in there somewhere anyway. Colour standards, which is a damn good book, and all judges should carry one when they go to judges. Because if they've got a query in their mind, they should never be afraid to look at it. If you suddenly forget what the main fault on a recessive pile is, don't be afraid of the judging recessive piles. Don't be afraid to get the book out and check and think, am I doing this right? Yeah, I am doing it right. You know, just to look at it. Too many people, I think, don't pay credence to the very first thing that comes up when you read the book. Condition is essential. That has gone out of the window completely, in my opinion, in recent, not in recent years, over a considerable period of time. Where people have tended to look at, they keep saying the bird. It's all about the bird. It isn't. If you're going to have a good fancy, it's about the right bird on the right day. Now, if you look at a class like this, you'll see I've tried to bring something of everything. There's a couple of half decent ones, and so on and so forth. But this class, if we're judging this, if you're all being invited to go and judge this, and I was going to invite you to all judge this, but there's no need to now because we've got our judging competition down there. But if you were invited to go and judge your local casework society, and you were fortunate enough to find that you've got a full class, because years ago when you used to go to judge, you quite often did get classes of 7 or more. Nowadays, even our own championship show, we know that the majority of classes are only 1 or 2. We've got more classes, and I think we didn't on our show, but there are quite a few shows that I judge. There are more classes than there are actually birds. But if you've got a class of 7, and you've got something to look at, you have to have a system, in my opinion, to judge them. Judging ones is easy. Keep on putting 1, 1, 1, or 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. But as soon as you get a larger class, and you've got a piece of staging like this, I believe you've got to be seen to be fair to all the activities. So it's no use judging that one down there, that one up there, that one there. I think all the birds need to go through at the same eye level. You need to see them at the same eye level. Now, as it so happens, 2 tables is probably just a fraction too tall for me, but we're not going to worry about that today. But all of these birds want to be seen at that level. They all want to be seen on the perch, not on the floor, and they all want to be seen on one perch. Because there's no doubt that if you get a bird across 2 perches, you get that one on the perch and you love it. It's no use seeing a bird across 2 perches, because if you see it across 2 perches, it gives a totally different appearance to if it's sat on 1 perch. Now the ideal, if you look at the book, once again, it's sat on 1 perch, should be at that nice angle. Anybody can tell me what it is? 30 degrees. I have to look at Terry, because Terry's the latest one to pass the test, and he knows all about it, you see. So,
no level would be.
Yeah. So they should be at 30 degrees. Whereas as soon as you get a bird across the perch, it gives it what we call the Roy Stringer appearance of swanking that makes a bird look far probably better than what it actually is. So I like to see them all up on the top. Now I evolved my judging strategy years and years ago, is that I judge from the bottom up. I don't judge from the top down. And the reason why I judge from the bottom up is that I pick out the bird I like least first and put that last in a class of 7. Now, the reason I do that is because every time I go through, I'm looking at it again, and I can see whether I'm working in the right direction or not. Now, I said there are certain rules, or talking about putting them through at that level. The biggest class I've ever judged, anyway, is 55, which was the first year I judged at the BS Club show in 1984. We missed that one. 1984, first year I judged the club show. I remember it well because Snelly won it with his light green Ken. That was a cracker. Anyway, 55. And I made sure that all of those 55 appeared on the top line. Not one of them did I throw away without moving it onto the top. So that anybody stood there watching me would have seen that at least his bird was looked at. And there's a lot of people who get 55 and just go along, throw them away, willy-nilly. I thought, no, let's be seen to be doing this job right. And that's always stuck in my mind. So that's why I get all of them go through at one level. And you'll find me fiddling and fighting about trying to do that at all shows. So what I do then is I say, I'm looking for the bird that I dislike the most amongst those. Now, on certain things that I'm red hot on, I do not like flecked-headed birds. And if you've got flecked-headed birds, you can forget it where I'm concerned, because you're not going to do a lot of good. I will not have them up, I know the rules are they should be penalised, but they're not eligible for certain specials and so forth. In my point, as far as I'm concerned, unless they're a flecked-headed bird in a class of 1, he's not eligible for a first prize. I'm going to try and find somebody better to put in front of him. I've offended some very good friends of mine by doing this. Many years ago, one of the first times I went to church in Cornwall, Rodney Harris, who had some excellent birds and was an excellent fancier, produced loads of openings, all flecked, but everyone down. And Rodney was somewhat disappointed by that, and could be understood. And of course he voiced his opinion, but he appreciated my opinion. And of course there were a lot of other people who normally expected Rodney to win and appreciated it even more because they won rather than Rodney on that occasion. But he got the message. The next time I went down there, Rodney did not produce any flecked openings because he knew it was just a waste of time by judging openings. So flecked-headed I do not like. I think it's a curse. I think we should have done a lot more to eradicate it years ago. I think we'd have done the fancy a lot of favours because it would have slowed the growth of feather within the birds, because these flecked-headed birds are invariably birds that have got a longer feather, and therefore people want to keep using them. So I would not flecked-headed on so if I've got all through a class like this. I'm looking. Have I got anything with a flecked head? Yes, I think I have. I'll find the right glasses. Let's start again. The other thing you've got to look for, if we're doing, I should have said, this is supposed to be a class of normal blues, dark blues. So you can have your cobalts, your mauves, your violets, or any amalgamation in between, sort of thing. So if you've got a class of normals, normally you can go along and say yes, normal. But you can get caught out. And the sort of thing you've got to be looking for is you've got quite a nice bit here, but he's lovely. So in a class like this, you've got to be aware that rather than make a mistake, you've got a wrong class up there. Regardless of being in the best show cage, or supposedly the best show cage, we can talk about that later on. But so that one's got to be wrong class. So it doesn't even feature in this class of 7. So that class of 7 is already down to a class of 6.
You missed them out there.
What?
You missed them out. You should take it to another judge rather than if it is an opening.
No, I wouldn't.
Although it's blatantly obvious.
It's funny you see, this is all part of this whole woke system that we live in nowadays, isn't it? Years ago, if you were a judge, you made up your own mind. You didn't go cluttering off and asking every other judge in the show whether he thought it was a hen or a cock or a...
They do know.
But everybody does now. They're walking round and round. You thought, well, I immediately question a lot of them, their confidence on that. Once again, I have to be a bit careful what I say here, because if I've got one of these easily clear ones or something like that, I do have to go and check with Terry Shepherd and see what it actually is. But as far as I'm concerned, you know, you're asked to give your opinion. If none of you like my opinion at the end of the day, you can all have a chatter and say what a useless judge I was, and not invite me back. It's as simple as that. You invite a person to give his opinion. Yeah, okay, Dave. We've got our wrong password. So I'm now looking at what I dislike and what I like as a judge, but still trying to interpret these wonderful books we've got. Now, as I say, I don't like fleck-headed. So we've got a fleck-headed bird there. So I'm thinking that's probably going to get relegated, which now gives us the option to bring up another bird in its place, up to the eye level that I want that. And we can bring up another bird to the eye level I want that. Now, I'm thinking, and I think there's an awful lot of judges that don't think nowadays, that condition is essential, because that is the very first line in that book. That's a condition is essential. You can get 5 up there, no, can't we? Get this one up. So I've eradicated those with the fleck-headed. I've put those towards the bottom so they just don't like them. Simple as that. Don't invite me if you show fleck-headed birds. Simple as that. So I don't like fleck-headed birds. He's going towards the bottom. But also, I don't like birds like that one. Because whilst that is possibly, many would say, and certainly the judge that is here today, who's decided to go to Tenerife or somewhere rather than listen to me, but we did debate this last week when he was judging, he would immediately probably say that that's the best place he's there. And if you're looking for the widest head, the biggest spots, the widest mask, you could well be right. But to my mind, it's tailless. And a tailless bird is A, not in proportion, B, is certainly not in condition, and therefore should be very heavily penalised. So as far as I'm concerned, that bird is going to go down there in my fleck-headed monster. Now in my opinion, because it's lacking so many feathers, it finishes behind the fleck-headed bird. And ends up there. Now you start beginning to look at birds that are more complete. Now all of these birds are somewhat near condition. They're not in perfect condition. You can go along and find the odd flight or something that might be missing. But I've picked them because they nearly satisfied what I wanted to say. And there is a limit to how many dark blues I've got at home. You must obviously not realise that. If you start to look at them from a condition point of view, the one in probably in the best condition is this one. Now, that chap is probably like me, kept birds for 60 odd years, never had a good bird in his life, but loves his birds and looks after them. And he's still keen to show them. And I believe you've got to give that chap some credit for what he's doing. Hence, I would always put a bird like that in front of a bird like this one down there. Now there are those that would never do that because they would say that's rubbish as a pet bird, and that has the makings of a quality bird. I don't agree, I don't subscribe to that. I do probably to the fact that that's nearly rubbish. But if somebody's made an effort to bring a bird like that to a show, he needs to be respected. And to just put that behind that simply because some bloke's been out and caught it out of flight and thrown it in a cage, I think is wrong. So that's why he's down there and he's still up there. Now, you can now start to look at the quality of them. This bird here and this bird here are somewhat similar. When I did this talk only a few nights ago, I decided that that bird would be that bird. In the meantime, this one's lost a couple more flights. So you can start to say, well, that's in beautiful condition, that is not in good condition. I believe the other two birds that are up here are in good enough condition to be in, and are probably better birds in the great majority of people's opinions. So I'm now deciding as to what I relegate to position 4. The other night it was definitely that one. Today it might be that one. Now I'm getting towards the front end of the job. As I've judged for many, many years, you tend to have a quick overall picture when you get a class in front of you. You've got a rough idea of what's what and what's coming. So I've already got these two now work their way towards the front. They may have started at the bottom, but they gradually work their way towards the front. Now you're looking at what judges personally like or dislike. This is one to stand up for a minute. Now, if you look, when you get close to this one, it has a few feather problems in that its tail, second tail feathers are falling out at the moment, but it's not falling out, it's there. Those ones look as though they're going that way at the moment. It's not quite in the same condition as that one. And you can change shape, whereas that one never changes shape. And if I'd been judging them as I did the other night, setting these labels on, you can see where I've got to. I mean, they're right way around. 1, 2, 3, and then I had 3, 4 of those two the other way around as well. That was the easiest way of remembering that I've got 2. 1 to 7. But if I was judging a class of birds like that, that would be the way I would approach it. Now, as I say, we all see it slightly different. My good friend Robbie Pearce was there the other night, and he preferred this one. And I said, can't disagree with you, Ronnie. If that's the one you prefer, that's the one you prefer. With both judges, we just interpret the standard as we see it. I just prefer this one on the evening, he preferred that one. This one, because it's been sprayed a few times, the feathers are all breaking out a bit more than what they were, but they had a few more pin feathers in it. And this one looked in the best condition. But basically, that is my approach to judging, and I've been using that now for, I think, well, God knows how long, since about 1970s, something like that, which is a long time ago. But the natural thing is I'm getting less and less judging engagements. Yeah, so that's my approach to judging. Always reward the people who have put their birds out in good condition. Don't just say rubbish. Quite easy to say, where is it? This one up there. Quite easy to say rubbish, put it down at the bottom and forget about it. Quite easy to say that. Because quality-wise, yeah, it doesn't compare with the others as far as facial characteristics, spots and one or two other things, quite easy. But if somebody's gone to a lot of trouble to put fence that bird, I think they should be rewarded, and they are closer to the standard in many ways than most of these other ones, simply because they're in condition, and it says condition is essential. I based this on when I first started, which was way back in the God knows when, the 50s, 1950s. And a chap who took me under his wing never had a decent budgie in his life. A wonderful little aviary, but no decent budgies in it. But he would always send his birds out in good condition. In other words, he loved his budgies, he put a lot of time and effort into them. And I always thought to myself, well, that sort of chap is the backbone of the fancy. He's a chap who encouraged me to get involved. I mean, for that reason, you must respect these people and give at least give them a chance. There's no way that bird's going to be that one. Well, that one comes to that because it isn't. But if it's in good condition, don't just throw it away because it's the worst budget. Give it some recognition. I may be wrong in my attitude, but that is my attitude towards judging. Best judge I ever judged with is not in this room.
He's coming.
Oh,
He's in Tenerife.
He ain't in Tenerife at the moment, in fact he's up there. It's Derek Bowling. Derek Bowling had the ability to be the best bird on the day. Not necessarily the best bird in the show, but the best bird on the day. And I stood with him and we debated it, especially with his son, who tends to have a different opinion, and many other judges. And they would bring forward cracking budgies with half a wing and things like that. Derek just would not have them. He'd have brought forward, he invariably judged the blue, so he'd bring forward his best blue. And that best blue would be feather perfect. And for that reason, he always maintained that should beat these other birds that may be considered better in the fact that they got slightly wider heads or deeper marks and things like that. But they weren't feather perfect. And he had disability, and he convinced me that I should be supported, and I think I was doing right in supporting him, because we were picking the bird for the day, not the bird we want to take home. The bird we want to take home is not necessarily the bird we put first in a class. So, as I said, I think that's the way you should approach judging, is that you should look at the birds on the day, not what they could do, or whether they won Swindon show last week. That doesn't mean to say it should win Bedfordshire show next week, because birds do come in and out of condition, and other birds appear at different shows as well. So that's my attitude to judging. As I say, some of them, everybody sees birds differently, don't they? Some people would like this one for its colour. There's no need to say they're wrong, is it? It's not the greatest of birds, but some like it for its colour. Some would like that one simply because it's where it is, got the widest head and the deepest mast. That thing never gets any flights, well, it gets some flights, but it never gets a tail. And I think it's those sort of birds that are really destroying the fancy, or tended to destroy the fancy over a period of time. Because people will come and they will acquire a bird like that, and then only breed birds like that, or probably not breed any birds at all. So they go away in disillusion. The only way to keep people involved in budgerigars is to have them so that they can breed birds on a regular basis. There's no greater thrill than putting a pair of several pairs of birds down and breeding youngsters. And then thinking, I bred those, well, you never bred them, the parents actually bred them, but you contributed towards the breeding knocking. Now that is, I think, where the great pleasure comes. And sometimes you breed half decent one like those two, and sometimes you breed something not quite as good. It's all down to genetics. What you have to do. when you're preparing budget is to look at the pair you've got, look at their parents, and think, what the hell am I going to get out of this lot? And if you get it right, you get the best of both worlds. If you get it wrong, you get the worst of both worlds.